All right. Why don't we just kick things off? So, hey everyone, welcome to the Entrepreneur Speaker Series, where we chat with entrepreneurs in the Midwest, learning more about their story, venture, and future. My name is Julian. I am the entrepreneur in residence at Grand Valley State University, and I'm with Alita Kelly. Alita, how are you?
Doing all right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. You've been like pretty much just growing and just really just super popular. I'm trying to like figure, I was struggling with the words because I'm just like baffled by just how much you've been able to accomplish in a short amount of time. But pretty much for those who might not know, Alita is the co-founder of the Southeast Market, the Southeast Market. Alita is a Grand Rapids native who recently graduated from the University of Michigan in environmental science and sustainable business. She managed multiple nutrition programs in the nonprofit sector, ran a sustainable catering business called Royal Jelly, and provides individual wellness coaching. She has been a local advocate for food justice, food sovereignty, and urban agriculture through community engagement, including sitting as a member of the City of Grand Rapids Urban Agriculture Committee. And Alita enjoys taking potential waste, turning it into something useful and or beautiful, in addition to radical sharing and causing good trouble. So let's kind of like start with that. Like, what exactly is good trouble?
Sure. So, good trouble for me means we have this term called West Michigan nice. And for me, it means, speaking out and speaking up and kind of going against that and getting in the way when necessary. And just being authentically yourself in spaces that might tell you need to act a certain way, and not really worrying about being palatable. You have to worry about that to a degree, but not to the extent where you compromise your values. So that's what good trouble means for me.
Okay, cool. And then so you've done pretty much like that whole recap of the things that you've done, which is incredible. Let's start from the top. Like, how did you like get into nutrition? Like, what led your interest into it?
Sure. So I grew up with modest means, and we ate a lot of junk food. Like, I feel like I survived off ramen for a while. It still got a special place in my heart. But you really can't thrive off that food.
Yeah.
And I got sick. I had a high risk pregnancy with my daughter, and I was in the hospital. I was hospitalized after I had her. I was on stroke watch and heart attack watch. I was 20 years old.
Wow.
And while I was in the hospital, I was on this heart healthy diet. I could order from the heart healthy menu, and there was like macaroni and cheese and this turkey burger. And I was just like, I don't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know anything about nutrition or food at that point, but I was like, this isn't right, And after I got past that trial, I started looking into food and like what I was gonna feed this little baby, and like how I was gonna survive so I could be around for her, and have more energy. And so I would push the stroller up to Fulton Street Farmers Market, talking to farmers, figuring out like how do I cook, a delicata squash, or these are beets. I'd never had beets, and I was making her baby food and learning and eating it for the first time myself,
Right.
like at the same time as this baby. And then I started to feel so good, and I had all this energy, and I attribute, some of my energy, a lot of my energy right now, to the food that I eat. So it was so life-giving for me. It just became sort of like my love language. I wanted to share like the beauty and the power of real food with other people.
Yeah.
So that's how it got started.
Okay. So the thing about ramen, right? Like when I was the 20, or I still am a 20 something, but younger 20 something, I definitely had all kinds of fixings for my ramen, like hot sauce, some, cheddar cheese and stuff like that. I had Pop Tarts, and my friends would actually tease me about that, but I was like, look, I'm poor, I'm broke. This is what I could afford. But what was
But there's
that?
ways you can spice up and make ramen healthy-ish. And
Right,
so ramen is one of my favorite like go-tos to how can you make like your poor meal,
right.
your meal healthier? How can you jazz it up? And ramen, you can add an egg to ramen. You can add green onions to ramen. I love putting like crushed peanuts, like some flavored peanut, like in my ramen. So that's just 3 ways, and you got protein, you got an herb, wild grass, that spring onion. So there's ways that we can evolve some of the meals that we're used to eating and that are within our reach financially.
Right, right. And I love how you were really candid about your story and just sharing, the same thing that like I dealt with, just like, I don't know how to cook, but is ramen looking nice though? What's good with that? Like I love that. But it also, from what you have shared, it sounds like when you did have your daughter, and also when you did go through health complications, that really like shifted you to really focus on what it is that you're eating. Could you share a little bit more, kind of like what was kind of like that first moment in which, aside from like talking with farmers, like what were some of the other things that you've done along this journey?
Yeah, that inspired me to look into food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So another big one was I worked at it was Trillium Haven, or Trillium Restaurant in Easttown. Now it's Terra, and I was a hostess there when they first opened. And I was trying rabbit and like all these just exotic, awesome foods. And so really like just working in the service industry and being like interested and aware of like what was going on around me, like that really sparked my interest also. And then from there, I worked at Spectrum Health and as a nurse scheduler. And after that, then I went on to manage a prescription for health program through the Access of West Michigan. And yeah, just continued from there.
Okay. So you also mentioned that you had ran a catering business called like Royal Jelly. What led you to run it?
Sure. So because I just love having multiple jobs at one time, I was running the nutrition program at D.A. Blodgett St. John's Home for Abused and Neglected Children. And I wanted to explore what it would look like to be my own boss and really call the shots. And they gave me a lot of freedom in that role at St. John's Home. So I'm not speaking to that, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And so like figuring out a system and building out a system is just so much fun to me. And I saw that I was making all of these meals and like hosting these like really large dinner parties for people. And it seemed like catering could be one way I could expand that joy of mine into a lucrative activity. And so that was just like a natural progression into catering. And even in that role, I was able to make connections with farmers to figure out like hone in on this skill that I'm really proud of, which is like, I know how much food it takes to feed X amount of people. Or like, I can look at, that pile of bananas, like, I know there's 16 bananas there. I didn't count them. I know like about how many there are. And so part of that experience led me to hone in on that skill of knowing how much you have, how much you can get rid of, and with a certain crowd. And that speaks more to food, reducing food waste, which is a huge passion of mine, because it's so resource intensive to grow this food. And we want to honor the gifts that the earth gives to us by consuming them, and using them, and not just growing and trashing it, because that is devastating.
Yeah. So let's also kind of like talk about that as well. Because like within entrepreneurship, just as as you had mentioned, like you have to be able to know, you have to be able to understand and observe and know like some of the problems that you're wrestling with. And food is definitely what I would say, to some it's the main issue, but also to others is something that many people could take for granted because they don't necessarily have to think about it, right? So I'm curious, like, what does food justice and sovereignty mean to you, and what does it look like?
Yeah. So food sovereignty really speaks to all of us having a piece in what our food policy looks like. And so right now, there's places like France, for example, they have it written within their policy that grocery stores are not allowed to throw away, X% of their food. And so here, we don't have those safety nets within our policy, and it doesn't speak to what people want, but also we have to talk about what it is we want so we can fight for the right policy to be enacted or developed. And so part of what food sovereignty looks like for me is creating space and systems that speak to how we're going to address sustainability issues and social justice issues, because those are environmental issues and they're all connected. So yeah, food justice to me looks like being a part of my food system intimately. And so I feel really grateful that I have this platform right now.
Right. Yeah, no. So like when I first like read about you and some of the articles, I was like, I have to meet Alita. By far, I have to meet Alita because like food has been something that of course I enjoy it. I like it. But it's something that is it to me, it is something in which I find is, like you said, connected to all different things. And just recently, I went into a conference in which they talked about food apartheid that goes into like a deeper problem into that. And it sounds like you are like well knowledgeable about like food apartheid. Could you share with us what food apartheid is?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So a lot of people utilize the term food desert to refer to an area that lacks fresh, healthy food. And desert is not really the best word to describe what's happening, because deserts are thriving ecosystems.
Mm-hmm.
And so food apartheid speaks to the intentional separation of these fresh, healthy foods or resources from specific communities. And so it's not a coinky dink that, I'm sitting here in the hood and there's nowhere that I can get fresh, healthy food in walking distance or within 1 mile from my home. So that's what food apartheid is speaking to, the intentional separation of resources.
Right. Yeah. So, and then also like when we think about location in areas, the zip code 49507, that is a strong zip code. That is a powerful zip code that is on the rise. What does 49507 mean to you? And what are some of the things that you hope for this zip code?
Sure. So 49507, first, it represents one of the most diverse areas in Grand Rapids, and diversity is our strength. And so I want to start there. But also we know that Black and Brown communities are disproportionately affected by COVID, diabetes, heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. And when you connect it back to the lack of resources, then it's easier to see just why we're sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just because we want to eat these chips. It's like, that's what's around. That's what we're being fed. But part of getting into good trouble is talking about the why. And even though it might upset some people, we're still going to talk about it and provide, and getting in the way of diabetes by providing healthy food in these spaces.
Right. Yeah. Right. Again, it all ties back into like having all of these different problems all connecting, and again, being the entrepreneur that you are, causing good trouble, you have made the observations and what it is that you see in your day to day, and you also experienced it yourself, right?
Right.
So I'm curious, like, what were like some of the steps that kind of like, why don't I start a grocery store in my own neighborhood? Like, what was kind of like the process of starting the Southeast market?
Totally. So over the years, as I was working nutrition programs and learning more about food justice, I was saddened that I didn't have a grocery store or a food space that had what I wanted. And yes, we have the Southeast area farmers market and we have the Fulton Street farmers market, but this is Michigan. It's cold half of the year. So like you can't go there. Like next week is our last market, and then sort of like you're on your own, or like we're all headed to Meyer. Yeah, and I just didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to accept that. That was the only place. Granted, there are other spaces. I'm not saying, we're the only fresh market and the only market trying to do this, but I knew that there was room for more.
Right. Yeah, no, I was about to say, like, when I woke up this morning, I was really cold, like really, really, really cold. I was like, I know this is Michigan, but still, like, be easy on me, please.
I know. What's the heat on? I think it's I'm still like, where's my robe?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, no, I feel that, and, that is something that is a real problem, especially within Michigan, despite Michigan being one of the best places to start farms and produce, great agriculture. It still gets cold. So
we still got to eat.
Yeah.
We still have to eat. So
that's true.
Yep. So part of being having that entrepreneur mindset is like, if it's not there, we make it.
Right.
And so that is why this market exists.
Yeah. No, I think that is something that many people need to like really like harness, and just understanding problem and understanding, what is something that is not in the market. What is something that my community is missing? What is something that my community need,
Totally. And the pulse too. So like for me, I've been working in nutrition for years, and I've been checking the pulse on an idea like this. And so the first time I dreamt of a market like this was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And since then, I've been, mulling more in the back of my mind as I finished my degree and worked on some other things. But yeah, just been checking the pulse the entire time though.
So this has been like a 4 to 5 year process. This wasn't just like an overnight success just like that.
No, but when I got back, I just graduated from U of M in the spring in May. And when I got back, I was ready to start building a business plan. And I thought it was going to take me several years because I can be a perfectionist. But what I think one of my biggest strengths is I like to take counsel. Like I like to learn from my elders and people that are ahead of me and that are experts in the field. So I really did some research around that and talked to folks, and I got a resounding yes, go for it. It's time, let's do it. And so it was at that point I quit my job. So I was working for a real estate development company.
Did that scare you?
Yeah. It was scary, but also like I'd been saving money because I knew that I was going to pour into a project. I knew it, and I wasn't sure that this was going to be the one right off rip after graduating. But after getting the support from my community, I decided to go for it. I didn't have time to do both. That's when I knew that I really had to let it go.
Right. So I also do want to remind everyone that feel free to just like ask Alita questions that you might have. I will be reading them, and also just like asking Alita from your questions. I'll be asking towards like the end of this webinar. So please drop those questions in the Q&A chat box on Zoom. So continuing on with what it is that you were saying, this is all during COVID, right?
Yeah, COVID like sped up everything.
So, and that to me is like incredible. Like what? How do you do that during COVID?
Oh yeah. I mean, immediately I was like, okay, I gotta grow all of my food. I got all these seeds started, like trying to figure out how we were gonna survive, how me and my little family were gonna survive. And we saw all of the vulnerabilities in the food system. Like there was no chicken at the grocery store. Like obviously large scale chicken production is vulnerable. So yeah, these are things that I knew, and that people that work in food and food justice, they understand that. But it was when everyone was subject to chicken outages, then we're like, hey, wait a sec, what's going on? Why'd that happen? Right. But at the same time, like I never ran out of chicken because I was working with local chicken producers and they were fine.
Right.
They weren't experiencing like whole plant shut down because of COVID. So I think it speaks to the strength of local food systems and knowing your farmer and all of that.
And that's greatly understated, especially when you're talking about factory farms, which is like these huge like companies like the Tyson Foods, for example, that essentially are, I would say, almost malicious to a point and predatory towards farmers, which another conversation I hope to dive in a little bit later talking about farming. But just really aggressive, like within that. And I think that's like dope, just having those relationships with local farmers. And so one of the things that you mentioned as far as like starting the Southeast market was you had a support system of ways. Like, how did you identify the people to get like counsel from? And then what other like supports did you have in the creation of the Southeast market?
Totally. So the first people I went to were my grandparents. I went to some business leaders that I knew, my professors. Hey, like, I got this wild idea. Like, here it is. What do you think? So just people that I've developed a relationship with, but also others who are in the field. So one example, Jerry Adams from Farmlink, which he has a food warehouse, and they connect individuals with local farms. I consider him one of my mentors, and he was like, I think this is a great idea and you should go for it. And he even offered up some of his space for me to get started in.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I never took him up on it because we got this space that fell into our lap. But just like that generosity was so beautiful. And, you know, he was coming from a place that wasn't a scarcity mentality, even though we were about to do the same thing. There's enough for everyone. And I really like to live in that space, because the scarcity mindset is what has us all messed up right now.
Most definitely. It's something where, especially like during these times, when people freaked out and bought a whole bunch of toilet paper and nobody could actually get, toilet paper, scarcity mindset,
Yeah, Jim over here with 30 rolls, and then we can't wipe our buns because Jim's sitting on all the gold. Like, this is not right.
Right. I could just imagine like a toilet paper throne of sorts. I don't know what people were doing with this. I mean, I really don't know what everyone was doing with them. No offense to those who was kind of hoarding the toilet paper. You know who you are. But the scarcity mindset, that's a real thing, and especially like within, I would say, kind of like the entrepreneurial mindset, that there is a lot of fear going into it, and you have to defy those fears. What were some of those things that helped you to keep pressing, to keep marching forward to like having the Southeast market, or having the space for it? And then what were like some of the next steps as far as like inventory, or even you had the GoFundMe page, which was an overwhelming success?
Right. Well, I just started talking to a lot of people about the idea. Once I committed to it, and I had my counsel, my head counsel was like, you should do this. Then I just started talking to everybody about it. Yeah. And then I started getting like, people were like, this is great. Like, can I give you a check? Like, how can I support you? And I was like, dang, I have to like get something up so I can direct people to like give me money to do this work.
That's crazy. So hold on, pause. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So people were just ready just to write you a check based upon what it is that you had shared with them?
Yeah, but also these are people that know my heart. Like, I didn't just show up here, like, I've been doing this. So these people knew, like, if we give Alita $20, like, she's not just going to go like sit on it somewhere. Right. Like, she's gonna make that $20 work.
Right.
And
right.
That's what we're doing.
They're like, see about that good trouble life. Let's go.
I mean, it was people that knew my heart and knew how I work, and knew my ethics. And so once they're able to vouch to their friends, like, hey, this person I know who like has been working in food and just like so passionate about it is doing this thing, I think it just spread. It may have spread that way.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, like, from my own experience, when you interact with people and build good relationships, that is definitely something that will take you far. And
Right.
I know, to me, in my opinion, my thought is that there's no such thing as a self-made person. It truly takes a community. It,
Oh,
it takes it takes a 49507 community. You know, it takes all of those people to be able to make a dream work. You know, uh,
totally.
so that is amazing. So what were some of the like other next steps, like once you had like the building and whatnot, like what were some of the other things that you had to do in order to actually fill the shop, or what were some of the other
Sure.
problems that you went through?
Sure. So one of my top priorities is making sure that we are approved to carry out EBT SNAP transactions. And
Mm-hmm.
so I filled out the whole application, and then it's like, where's your food retail license? I'm like, oh, okay, gotta go get one of those then. They're like, what's your address? Oh, gotta go get a building, I guess.
Right.
You just like see there, you come across obstacles, and then you pivot and you like get into it. And so it's just been a learning as you go sort of thing. There's no guidebook for how to open this grocery store. Just trying to stay humble. Like there's a lot I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really open and receptive to like the lessons that are trying to be learned through me, and the keys and the clues that the universe is trying to show me,
Right.
so this can be successful, because I know that this is good work, and I know that that Grand Rapids needs it. Like, we're hungry for it. That's another piece of the
Yeah.
success to this. Like, people here are hungry for this type of establishment.
Literally.
Like, ravenous.
Right.
So that gives me energy.
Right.
And
Right.
that's how things are happening so fast. I love it. I love to see how gassed up people are. It gives me energy to keep going.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So I also wanted to just kind of like dive into something that you were talking about, or you mentioned about pivoting. Pivoting is like one of the core of starting any type of venture, because it's like the more you know you don't know something, and you have to be humble, exactly what it is that you had said. So during those humbling moments, like, how have you been able to give yourself grace? Because mistakes happen every single time. And I know for myself, I can get very, very hard on myself. Like, dang, I wish I would have done that, or I should have done this, that, and the other. What are some of the things that you do to give yourself grace?
I think that my business partner, Kara, like, she helps to ground us, and we ground each other.
Mm,
So when I'm over here on a tangent, like, dang, I should have did that. Like, what was I thinking? She's like, it's okay. Like, I wish you could hear her voice, just like so peaceful and lovely. She's like, we're gonna do this. It's all right. Like, we'll try again tomorrow. Like, we're gonna do it though. Like,
yeah.
we're not giving up. And so just thinking about it in like a long game, like, this is a long game.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we pop open and then we're done. What else are we gonna do? Like, no, this is a concept that continues to evolve. So being grounded in that, and knowing that this is a long game, and then having someone else who is working intimately in the project to bounce ideas off of, or to challenge you or validate, something you did, I think is really important.
Yeah. So that's another new update, because the first time that we spoke, it was like a few weeks ago, right? And at the time, it was just you, just running the whole show, right? And more recently, you have a new co-founder that you have mentioned. What was
Right.
the process of having a new co-founder and why?
Yeah, so I never intended to do this work on my own. I tried on some partnerships, and anybody like in business will tell you like a partnership, it's like a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to be very careful about who you go into business with. And I've watched other business partnerships and like witnessed their dynamic and what works and what didn't work. And I was taking notes and keeping stock of all that like over time. And so I reached out to Kara to potentially just contract with her as an accountant. But she understood the mission and the vision of Southeast Market so intimately that as we spent time together and really tried on each other, I offered her a partnership. It was very clear. And I feel confident about that.
Gotcha. And that was from her just like understanding the mission and vision and having alignment within that.
That, and she has a set of skills that I don't have. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a numbers nerd. That's what she calls herself, a numbers nerd, and she is. And she's got the design eye. Like, I know what looks good, but like if I could just put on my black turtleneck every day and have a uniform, like I'd be fine.
Right.
Like, so we complement each other.
Yeah.
That's what we complement each other, and we don't have to compromise our values to see eye to eye.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that is a great analogy to see any type of like business partner or co-founder is to really see it as a marriage. Because more than anything, this is the person that you're going to be with for most of the time, you know, like for the 70 to 80 hours a week that you're putting in, you know? So you definitely want to like find the person who like shares the same like mission and values alignment as yourself, along with having those complementary skills.
Right. And enjoying each other. Like if you're going to be spending 70 hours a week with someone, like I hope you can laugh together.
Right.
Like,
Right.
hope you have, like the same snacks.
Right. Yeah.
There's so much that goes into it. And I think that we should consider it just as important as like a romantic relationship or like embarking on a new really close friendship or whatever. Like it's a big one. And then you have the success of your business hinged on it also. So like you're not just doing it for yourself, like you're doing it for everyone that your business touches. So like bringing Kara on makes this whole thing successful for all of us. That's how I see it.
I love it. You preaching, you dropping gems. So just kind of like moving forward. So now that you have a co-founder and you recently just opened up shop, you had a opening, did you not? Or
soft launch. We have 30 initial customers who've made financial commitments to shop at the store until the end of this year. And part of that is a way for us to hone in on our operations, fine tune everything, and figure out our processes, get some revenue before we can open to the public, because we're not going to do that until we're approved to carry out EBT SNAP transactions.
Got you. So like during this time, I guess, what are like some of the things that the Southeast Market do currently?
What was that?
Like, what are some of the things that you're doing as you're just kind of like awaiting for like the bigger launch?
Sure. Yeah, we're building up our inventory, figuring out what products are available, what products our customers want to see, growing relationships with the local farmers and getting them to consider us in growing plans, because like farmers, they never really stop. Like in the winter, they're planning, like, who are my customers? Who am I going to be able to sell to? So we're trying to build, Southeast market into their equation. We're figuring out our delivery process, because we definitely are going to do curbside delivery. Right now, we're getting our e-commerce set up, figuring out, margins for certain items might look different than others. All of that. So many things.
Yeah. So let's talk about farmers for a quick second, especially like within the local region. Like Michigan have a plethora of farms. It's a plethora of like orchards and whatnot. How did you go about like establishing those relationships with these farmers, and what does that relationship look like in relation to the Southeast market?
Sure. So part of our mission is to source first from Black and brown led farms or female led farms, which there aren't that many of, especially on the west side. And part of that is the dispossession of land that has occurred over the last century. So at the beginning of the 20th century, we were at 1 in 7 farmers was a farmer of color. Today, it's 1.3% of farmers are farmers of color. And so that's alarming.
Yeah.
And part of us saying that we're centering our products around these priority vendors, is what I'm calling them, means that we're showing up for our community, and that's how we build equity into our community. So just being really cognizant of that is at the core of Southeast market, and listening to their stories and their struggles, and what are the obstacles that Black farmers face, that female farmers face. And it's just so heartbreaking, and gives me even more energy to make sure that we're celebrating what it is that they were able to bring to us despite all of the trials that they go through,
Right.
because they're farming while Black or farming while female. So I'm excited to share those stories, because there's so much beauty in it too. It's heartbreaking, but it's also beautiful. And I hope that it inspires young people of color, young people in general, women, to get into farming.
Right.
Because we need more small scale farms, and diversity to be evident in those farms.
Right. I mean, it's as you mentioned, it's a problem, and where there are problems, there are opportunities.
Right.
And it's a great opportunity to begin and to do the similar things that you've done, which is like go out there, meet people, develop relationships, good relationships, intentional relationships, work, put forth your skills and talents and efforts to solve a really compelling problem that you yourself are interested in, and that sounds a lot like what it is that you have done with the Southeast market. And, just encouraging other people like yourself to, find that problem that they're really like driven by and just kind of like almost annoyed by.
Right. I find what breaks your heart.
Yeah.
Like, if it breaks your heart, go there. Like, go there and see what you can do. And so part of what we can do at Southeast Market is providing some transparency into the food system. Because when you go into other stores, you don't usually have a conversation about like what unique issues this farmer who raised, the cows for this beef that you're about to consume is going through.
Right.
So we want to make it like a personal experience for people to get close to their food, because really when you do that, there's so much opportunity, like you were speaking to.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I'm loving this conversation. We could go on and on and on. But again, I do want to dedicate time for others to ask you questions. And one of those questions, since we're on the topic of farming, like, do you happen to know the first step like someone would make to get started in small scale farming?
Sure. I think that getting your hands dirty in some urban ag work would be a really great first step. And I would encourage people to reach out to me. I can definitely connect you with ways that you can get teamed up with other people who are interested in growing or who are seasoned growers and help grow food together. And then it's about making sure that you have the financial health in order to secure land. So that starts at any time. You know, what's on your credit report? Are you saving? What are you spending your money on? Does it satisfy your long-term goals? So it's always a good time to start thinking about those things. But I would say if you were just like in college and you're interested in farming, like get your hands dirty with some urban ag work and meet people along the way.
Yeah, that's really good. I have a story of myself getting into urban ag, like in high school. I was inspired by a problem. Like I found out 2/3 of my school district was on free or reduced lunch, and I wanted to do something about it. I didn't know exactly how. I didn't know what it was that I was doing, but I did pretty much all the things that you've done. Like it was a problem. I want to solve it. Let me meet some people. Oh, there's the ag meeting. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And, one thing leads to another. I have a mentor who's a farmer, don't know anything about farming, but I learned a whole lot. And one thing leads to another. And before I know it, there's there's community gardens all around the district. So I think that's wonderful. I think another thing that I would suggest or add to it, I believe that there's this thing called freight farming, in which they also do have a school for that, or a school for learning how to do urban ag. Now, I don't necessarily know the cost of it, and there's probably something that is way cheaper, such as meeting people and talking with them and just doing it.
Yeah, there's so many really cool ways to grow food, like vertical farming. I mean, you can get real nerdy with it and try out some things without a huge financial cost. So, yeah, we're just talking about rabbit holes on Chrome,
Yeah.
There's some really cool stuff out there. A few spaces I would suggest budding farmers to look into would be Soul Fire Farm is one that I really have enjoyed watching them develop. So yeah, I would say check them out.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question, why do you think a major grocery chain hasn't opened in 49507?
Well, the margins on food are really slim. They are. And actually, there are development plans for a large grocery store to come around here. But I think that I threw them off a little bit. I didn't talk with the developers before I signed my lease,
Good trouble.
There it is again.
Love it.
Yeah, so they're trying to. They're trying to. But part of it is they're not going to go into a space that where there's folks that don't have a ton of disposable income, because large grocery stores, they don't make money off of vegetables. They make money because they're selling lawnmowers there.
Right.
So that's not something that we'll be able to do. And it's precisely why we're going to really need the community to support us. And even though it's really convenient to go to XYZ, like when you shop here, you're pouring into your community in a very intentional way.
Right. I remember a few years back, there was like a lot of excitement about getting a Whole Foods. And they were trying to, in Whole Foods, they have this interesting way of just kind of like calculating, okay, where should we go? And I believe like one of those neighborhoods were like East Grand Rapids, where it's highly affluent, or somewhere a little bit north, or I'm not too sure. Do you happen to know like any of the other areas at all?
Of where Whole Foods is looking?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I mean, but the point of it is that they were looking for these upscale, wealthy places, which is not, it's a part of food apartheid, you know?
Exactly.
It's something that plays into that, where it's like, no.
Yeah. Well, we live in a capitalist society, you know? And so it's like, if that doesn't make sense financially for them to get wildly rich off of, then they might not care about it.
Right.
But I'm one of the little guys.
Right.
I'm a little lady. And so, you know, I'm never
the big heart and just making it happen.
Big attitude.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but I'm never gonna put like my profits over your health and over our community having a gem like this.
Right.
Sustaining, you know, I can't be compromised in that way. So yeah, Meyer or Spartan Nash, I'm not sure, you know, what type of grocery store might come in over here. It's very different from what I'm doing. And so they are trying to come over here. I don't know who's going to try, but it can't be compared to what we're doing. It's totally different.
Right. Right. Good trouble. I love it. Like it's what the movement is all about, you know? Yeah. Like what it is that you're doing is, again, radically shifting thought paradigms and challenging those traditional notions of what a community looks like. And I'm so like happy that you're doing this. So another question, they loved what you said earlier about getting out of like the scarcity mindset. So how do we get more people to believe there's enough for everyone?
Yeah, well, first you have to start sharing what you have. And the act of radical sharing, it's scary because you're worried that you might not have enough, but what ends up happening is it comes back to you. And you start building community when you share in an authentic way. So, yeah, I think just start sharing what you have.
Okay.
And support businesses, even that look like your business, you know? Like I love Harvest Health. I'm here for them.
Right.
There's no need for this competition.
Right. There's enough for everyone.
There's enough.
So, as we like begin to like wrap up, what's next for you? What's next for the Southeast market?
Sure. I think that right now we're going to pour into building out e-commerce, figuring out how we're going to scale up to meet the demand, because there's so many people that are just eager and ready to shop with us. And we're a small store now, but we do have dreams to grow. And I think that we'll be able to do that within the next year. There's an adjacent location that it's written within our lease that we get to move into once it's done being renovated, and it's a larger, it's a larger space. We would like to grow into prepared food, have a cafe deli operation. So yeah, we're just gonna continue to flesh out those plans and stay in our lane, cause good trouble when necessary.
That's awesome. So I know like you just informed me that you closed the GoFundMe for now, which remind me again, how much did you raise?
We were just shy of 32,000.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
I'm grateful.
But
that was so beautiful to see that happen.
Yeah. So do you know like how many people had contributed? Like how many donors there were?
I think it was close to 380.
Wow. That's awesome. So though you mentioned that though you have closed the GoFundMe, you're doing another thing to help continue to support called Pay It Forward, correct?
Yeah. So Pay It Forward is essentially a pot that we can all throw into. And what we'll use those funds for is, let's say a neighbor comes in and they want to buy a pound of ground beef. We do have a high quality ground beef. We're sourcing some that's going to be a little bit lower quality, more affordable for our neighbors. Pay It Forward allows us to help the person that came in and is getting the lower quality ground beef. We're going to take money from Pay It Forward, make up the difference, and give this person the grass-fed local option. So it helps us to make some of our higher end products accessible to our neighbors with more modest means.
That's awesome. Like, tell me what grocery store does something like that. Like what?
I love it. I love the concept because it provides this dignity in giving that food pantries don't really have.
Right.
So we're trying to evolve, charitable and philanthropic activity to really provide a dignified experience for the individuals.
Yeah. That's amazing. So there is a comment for you. And I guess the comment question is like, have you checked out the model of, or I'm probably butchering this name, Oriana in Traverse City? It's like Oryana in Traverse City.
I am not familiar with this.
Yeah. The person said that it might be a good connection to make. So just throwing it out there.
I'm sorry. I got the name.
It's all good.
I'll come visit you soon. I'll be back here tomorrow. Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You're busy. So with that being said, thank you so much, Alita, and everyone for joining us. What are your socials for those who would like to kind of like connect with you?
Sure. So Southeast Market GR is the tag, both for Instagram and Facebook. So facebook.com/Southeast Market GR. Same for Instagram. We don't have a Twitter, not on Snapchat or anything like that. I'm trying to see if I can get some youngsters to
I think they're all on the gram. I think they all on Instagram. So
yeah, that's where we're at right now. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook. You can stay updated there. I would suggest getting on our mailing list from the website, southeastmarketgr.com. There's going to be some exclusive opportunities for people that are on the mailing list. Same with the Pay It Forward. There's going to be exclusive opportunities for engagement for those folks. And yeah.
Awesome. So, is there anything else that you would like to share? And I know like the Pay It Forward Fund is also like posted on your website. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to share aside from just causing good trouble?
Yeah, I would say stay curious, stay curious, ask questions about what it is you're putting into your body. That is okay. You should never feel odd about that. So I empower you all to ask questions.
Well, Alita, thank you for sharing. It is an honor and my pleasure to just like have you on. This was an amazing and moving conversation. Thank you.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So for everyone that's on, make sure you come back next week where we will have Erica Lozano Bull, founder of Mixto Communications, as part of our Entrepreneur Series. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Julian.